Have you ever tried to force a square peg into a round hole? Now, this may date back into preschool, nursery days. But you remember you got those little blocks that had different shapes, and there were holes at the corresponding shapes. And sometimes you can fit let's say a triangle into a circle, triangle shaped block into a circle hole because the dimensions might be correct, even though it's the wrong shape. But then you may run into trying to get a square peg into a round hole that doesn't work because not only the dimensions aren't the same, but the shape isn't the same either. And then you get frustrated, right? You try to force that square peg into a round hole saying, this is going to work. This will be effective. Like, we are going to reach this goal based upon this action. Like, I'm going to make this happen. Rather than stepping back and realizing this ain't going to work, but there's got to be another way. I feel like oftentimes we do that. So oftentimes we look out into the distance and see something that we want to grasp, right? A goal, opportunity that we are become so tunnel vision saying, I have to get to that goal by any means necessary. But by doing so could hinder our capabilities of reaching that success because we will be forcing something into existence that probably shouldn't be there, right? We'll be forcing either ourselves or the action at a time that would be a detriment to you reaching the end goal. Rather than taking a step back or inviting new voices or engaging in new practices that can still reach that end goal, but may just take a different approach. Sometimes we have to take a minute to step back. Sometimes we'll be going on a path and feel within ourselves that something ain't right, or be told by people that we trust, even people that we may not know, right, that something ain't right. But we get so locked in that we do not allow ourselves to at least be somewhat open-minded to see, is there another way? Is there something different here that I am missing, a perspective, a blind spot that is clouding my vision, that I need to open myself up to understand, to discern whether or not this is appropriate. And when we don't do that, when we don't open ourselves up to that type of wisdom, we will be so frustrated with ourselves because we feel like we need to persevere and push in this vein. But at the same time, we'll be missing out on, or we'll be engaging with so much frustration that we're missing out on some relief because we could be doing something different that will still reach the same goal. So I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what that is for you, but I know for me, sometimes I get on the podcast and I try to force a talk on the podcast, whether it's Pondering on the Patio or the, sound check in the studio upstairs. But just like when I'm doing these solo podcasts, I often come to the mic and I feel like I need to force a message, force a talk. And when I do so, it feels so forced. It's like I'm stumbling over my words, or I don't have the right points, or it's not making any sense. But I committed to sitting at this chair and pushing a message out. Now, if I didn't have wisdom and discernment regarding when I know when I'm forcing something or when something comes naturally, I would just push that episode out and say, you know what? I just got to get junk out there. I just got to get through the rough patches. I just got to push through because I told myself that I was going to produce an episode. Versus, and who knows if this is right or wrong, you can tell me, you can ponder with me. Versus listening to it, or even in the midst of it, recognize, you know what, this isn't right. I'm not going to produce this, but I'm going to learn from it and see what could I have done to make it better. Was it the right story? Did I have my points across? Did I know where I wanted to take the listener, you, towards on this podcast, on that episode? And how can I make it better so when I'm in my next recording session, it will flow naturally. And that's kind of like getting to that point takes a little bit of courage to know that, hey, it's not going to be perfect all the time and you can always learn from it. And also putting out junk in the past and realizing, yeah, I probably shouldn't have produced that. So here's what I do want to say. Yes, go forth, take the initiative, practice, do what you need to do, power through on what you set out to do. While you're doing so, be mindful to step back and reflect on how well it is that you are producing that effort and whether or not it is what you want to produce. I'm not saying we need to be perfect, but I am saying be cognizant of how you want to produce things and continue to work at it to get to the next step. That's not to say that we shouldn't produce anything and put things out there, but just be mindful, practice it, test it, invite people into it to help you tweak and get it right. But to the point where you feel good about producing it and putting it out there into the world. So don't put square pegs in round holes. Take a step back, find the right folks to help support you in that initiative and steps. And there's more than one way to get to the end goal that you reach when you practice those things. And that's what I'm pondering on the patio.